I want to give you a quick warning, real quick, before this comes on. This is going to be some of the most disturbing shit you have probably ever heard in your life. And you guys know by now, whenever I give you a warning, I mean it. This is going to be very graphic, very explanatory, and even more just very, very messed up. I am reading everything on these episodes verbatim. So be sure, guys, if you scare easy, or if you get queasy, or anything very easily, do not watch this video. Viewers' discretion is advised. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. It has been forever since my last confession, and by forever, I mean never. I know that many of you who are reading this website, the blog of my life and many others, will be somewhat disturbed. It may not make any sense to you, however, it makes perfect sense to us. See, for the ones who don't understand, you are all prey. That's right, all prey. Every last fucking one of you. As to where we are the hunters. We are what you call the elite, the serial killer. My story goes back to the age of 5. The first time I've ever seen anything die. It was a car on the road, and it hit a dog. I remember watching the dog in fascination as for 2 hours it lay there, just suffering, trying to live, trying to crawl away. The car went on about its way. Nobody stopped to help the animal. And I remember at first it was like a feeling of sadness and sorrow, but then it quickly became a feeling of amazement as I watched the dog try to struggle to get off the street, until eventually it died. It only kept my, well, let's just say interest for so long, because eventually I would test that theory to see just how much of it was true and how much the human spirit will fight to live. I don't think anyone really understands just how much a person can go through before they actually give up on life, before they beg for death, before there is no mercy. It's a sad thing for some of you. It's an amazing thing to the rest of us, the predators of life. Now, let's go back to whenever I was 13 years old. I had always had a fascination for my sister. I know it was wrong. To most of you anyways. But she was beautiful. But that bitch decided that she was going to get a boyfriend and tell my parents that I had touched her. She was older than me. I wanted her. No other man should have had her. Yet, they did. A boy at the age of 15. Like I said, I was younger. I understand. Now, what I did might have been perceived as wrong to most of you. However, one day they were walking through the woods. And as they were walking through the woods, I wanted to walk with them. And of course, they told me to go away. I couldn't do it. So the boy pushed me down, and my sister laughed and told me that it serves me right. Now, remember, this is a confessionary site. So I shall now confess what you would call a sin. However, I will not ever call it a sin beyond to appease the masses. So forgive me, Father, for I have sinned because I killed that bitch and her boyfriend. That's right, I sure did. Yes, I did. Because whenever I snuck up on them, I seen the boy had my sister's shirt unbuttoned. This rage come through me. And I looked down and I seen a rock. And I run up and I just started hitting him in the head. I still remember the sound of it. It just sounded like this conking noise upside of his head. It was such an interesting sound until I heard the skull crush. And then it sounded as if I was hitting on water. I think that was the first time I've ever crushed anyone's skull. My sister's still having her top wide open, looking up at the sky, just in pure horror and shock, not knowing what was going on, finally got up. And I told her, let's go home. The bitch started screaming. I had no choice. So I just smacked her in the head with the rock one time to make her shut up. But she started convulsing. And I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to get into trouble. I was a child. So I did the only thing I could do. I kept hitting her in the head until her eyes were just like staring at me, and they didn't blink, they didn't close, they didn't do anything. I don't know what the hell was going on at that time. I was just like, oh my God, I just killed my sister and her boyfriend. But then they started twitching, and I thought maybe they were alive, even though both of them had urinated on themselves, and I didn't know what that meant. I thought maybe they were just really hurt. But the more I sat there, the more I noticed that they weren't moving on their own. Their eyes were not blinking. So I pulled them over by a stream and just put them in the stream. I don't know why. To this day, I really don't. However, that's just what I did with them. And I left them there. Well, I went back hours later to check on them. They were still there. This time, though, the water in the stream had backed up, and it was going around them. And I really didn't know what to do. I had blood on me still. My parents were gone for the night. My sister was supposed to be watching me. So I went home to change. But as I was walking home, just something come over me. I wanted to see what I had done one more time. And I remember standing over them, not feeling sick, not even feeling scared, not feeling sad, but feeling the sense of power, just true, amazing power that I cannot describe. To this day, it was just like, oh, yes, this is what I was meant to be. I was meant to be a predator. And nothing anyone told me could ever change that. I wish I could say I stopped there, but I didn't. I remember trying to make them blink. I got a stick and stuck it in my sister's eye. And my sister's eye did not move. However, something come running out of it. And I remember trying to pull the eye out, and it was almost impossible. I don't know why, I just wanted to keep it. I thought it was really interesting, but it didn't work. You live and you learn, people, that the human body is put together very well. However, I remember looking at the boyfriend. The eyes were open, but you could not recognize him at all. Whenever I took the stick, I pressed it up against his head, and it was just like water. Just pure, just like a water bag. It just moved back and forth. At this point, I knew I was in trouble. So I went home. My mother and father called up a few hours later to ask how we were doing and asked where my sister was. I told them my sister was sleeping. I didn't know what to say. I'm not going to say, well, I hit her in the fucking head with a rock. Of course not. I would be in trouble. I knew the difference between right and wrong. I just didn't want to get in trouble. However, the next day came, and I knew my parents would be back that night. So I went back to check on them. And all I remember is they had these bubbles in their skin and a god awful smell. It was disgusting. It was like a bittersweet smell of shit and just death. Almost like a dead animal, just intensified. Well, needless to say, my parents came home. I was not very happy whenever they did, because I didn't know what to say. However, I didn't say a word. Whenever they asked where was my sister, I said, I guess she's sleeping. I don't know. I haven't seen her since I came home. So they just assumed that she was sleeping as usual. And they went ahead and went to bed. The next day they got up and of course went to work. I was amazed that my parents did not even notice that my sister was gone. It wasn't until later on that night, whenever they got back from work, that they tried to find her because she didn't come home. I didn't know what to say. But here was the thing. Inside, I wanted to cry. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, just to get out of something. However, I just acted like I didn't know anything. And it amazed me just how normal and easy it was to lie to my parents. More so knowing what I did. To this day, ladies and gentlemen, I have no idea why I had no emotional response. But sure enough, whenever the police were called, they put a report out, and then my parents decided the next day to put out a search party. I remember walking with them, and of course they went right to the same fucking woods that I did this at. Now, we got probably about half a mile into the woods, and you could smell this horrible smell. By this point, these bubbles that were forming on their skin had busted open. And there were bugs everywhere inside of them. I remember forcing myself to cry as if I had just lost the best thing that ever happened to me. I was never questioned once about the death of my sister. And I remember a year later, they thought that they had caught the man that had killed them. Charged them both. charged him with both of their murders, and not me. I could not believe that I had just gotten away with that. The man was sentenced to death. Now, this is my first confession. That's right, it is a confession of a serial killer. But it's only 2 deaths, you say. Wait till my next post. We're not even out of middle school yet, bitches. But know this, the next time I come back on, it's gonna get worse. And you will see exactly what a predator is versus that of prey. So, have you heard enough, or do you want to hear more? If you want to hear more, I will actually start doing this every Friday. And I will start with this Friday with the next post. There are a lot of posts to go through. This will go on for quite some time. But if it's something you want to hear post by post, I can do it. However, there are so many posts that I literally would be here for 3 days, probably just trying to get through the first set of posts. So if you are interested in more confessions of a serial killer, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, guys. And I will talk to you guys later. Peace out. Mahalo. Pleasant dreams.